In case you missed it, you guys remember Kathleen McSeebohm? The stain on the judicial system, the blight that is, the wretch, an activist masquerading as a judge who robbed Elon Musk of his fairly earned compensation and twice spat in the face of Tesla shareholders, robbing us of our will? Well, the Delaware Supreme Court, who have the ability to rain on her parade, as I'm sure they will, has officially scheduled oral arguments for October 15th in Elon Musk and Tesla's appeal of her utterly absurd decision, in which she unfairly struck down his 2018 compensation plan. As I've said from the outset, on appeal, no doubt this decision gets overturned. It's so ridiculous, corrupt, the reasoning makes no sense, it's ideologically motivated, it's just an absolute stain on the judicial system. There's no chance this stands. This 5-member panel won't need much deliberation to realise Kathleen McCormack is an absolute fucking retard. The decision cannot be justified, and it gets overturned. And the reason I mention this today is because that is likely to then pave the way for Elon Musk's next significant compensation package, which will no doubt be a series of extremely audacious, world-changingly large, ultra-ambitious, super impossible growth targets, metrics and milestones, carrots dangled in front of Elon Musk, extraordinary incentives to produce extraordinary results that will directly benefit all Tesla shareholders. I'm going to share a clip from the BG2 podcast all the way back in early March 2024, in which two big brain investors discussed this absolutely insane decision and the implications. If you've seen it and you don't want a refresher, skip ahead, use the timestamps below. It's about a 7-8 minute clip, but it's probably worth having a listen to what these guys had to say at the time.
A couple weeks ago, the state of Delaware, the Chancery Court, this judge, Kathleen McCormack, she, pretty shockingly struck down Elon's 2018 pay package. Remember, the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. They basically cut a pay package with him where he took nothing if the company didn't improve. But if the company hit certain targets, he would get paid out, 1% tranches of options, I think over 12 tranches, which because the company, had this extraordinary turnaround, he achieved his goals. So now she's kind of Monday morning quarterbacking. She's looking back and she says his pay package is unfathomable. And she said the board never asked the $55 billion question, Bill. Was it even necessary to pay him this to retain him and to achieve the company's goals? So, of course, this can be appealed to the Delaware Supreme Court, and it will be. But, in response to this, Elon and I think many others just said, hold on a second here. What the hell just happened? The state of Delaware has had this historical advantage in corporate law because of its predictability. And its predictability wasn't because of the code, but it was because the judiciary, There was a lot of precedent in the state of Delaware, and this seemed to turn that totally on its head. He said he was going to move, incorporation to the state of Texas. We're starting to see, other companies follow suit and other people talking about this. So what was your reaction, seeing, something that was, I think most of us thought was highly unlikely and pretty shocking?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's super important for everyone to pay attention to this. I don't actually think it's just an outlier event. I think it's so unprecedented in Delaware's history that it really marks a moment for everyone to pay attention. And there's a couple things I would pay attention to. One data point you left out, which came up recently, is the lawyers that pursued this case are asking for $5 or $6 billion in payment. And it turns out when you bring a derivative suit in Delaware, there have been cases where people ask for a percent and the judge gets to kind of decide that. And,
incredible.
If you step back and look, this is a victimless crime. And I think that's the thing that makes Delaware look like a kangaroo court here. Everyone knows the lawyer grabbed someone that only had 9 shares. And those 9 shares went way up, but it's kind of silly because it's so small anyway. So how could a client with 9 shares lead to a multi-billion-dollar award to a lawyer? And that's only true if you've created a bounty hunter system, a bureaucratic bounty hunter system. There's something in California called PAGA that's kind of evolved this way. And if that's the new norm in Delaware, that's really, really concerning. The other thing that's different here is the stock went way, way up. So I think we've all become accustomed to when stock prices going down, these litigators, grab a handful of shareholders and bring a shareholder lawsuit, and we're like, oh yeah. Unfortunately, that's become a way of life. But to attack companies that go way up, I would. Two things. One, I would offer this pay package. I looked at it in detail to any CEO I work with, and I think they would all turn it down because there's no cash, no guarantee. And the first tranche was a 2x of the stock. So that's fantastic. I think the biggest problem with compensation packages, and you may tackle that some other day, is a misalignment with shareholders.
Totally.
Where people are getting paid when the stock doesn't move. That's what RSUs do. And here,
and by the way, that's the standard in corporate America. We have this grift where people make a ton of money and the stock doesn't do anything. Look at the pay package for Mary Barra at GM.
So the first tranche here was if the stock doubled, and I would offer that to anyone. I would also say if any other CEO took a package like this, in a public company, I would be very encouraged to consider buying a lot of it.
Totally.
And so it may be like one of the most shareholder aligned incentive packages ever, which is exactly what you would think Delaware courts would be looking after, and ISS as well, which is a whole nother subject. But so I think it's just really bad. It does show a new side of Delaware, one that they haven't shown before, and so I think everyone has to pay attention.
Right. No, I mean, it's shocking. And if I was a corporate lawyer in my first life, as you know, if you actually go and look at the actual corporate law code in the state of Delaware, right? It's almost word for word the same as Texas, the same as California, and so on. The point here is it's not that Delaware has code, a legal code around corporations that's so much different than every other state. What has set it apart is it has way more legal precedent, way more trials that have occurred and judges who have interpreted that in a way that is very shareholder aligned, shareholder friendly. So the big,
and they're known for letter of the law. So the construction.
Correct. And so here we have a moment. And the reason it's so shocking is because it's at odds with all of the precedent that people had come to expect. So I think there are going to be...
We left out they had 70% shareholder approval. I mean, and there's a high low probability event that happened to happen, and you can't look at that after the fact and say, oh, it was obvious this was going to happen,
Right. I think that, if this stands, so I imagine corporations right now are in holding patterns, right? Elon is moving, reincorporating in Texas. I think a lot of other corporations will stay pending the Delaware Supreme Court appeals ruling, right? If they overturn this judge's ruling, then I think you may be back to the status quo in the state of Delaware. But if they uphold the ruling, and deny, I think Elon said, despite all the goodness that's occurred, saving the company from bankruptcy, this means he effectively gets paid zero for the last 5 years. It's such an outlandish outcome. So if it gets upheld, I expect you're going to see significant flight from the state of Delaware by people reincorporating in these other states that, frankly, are pretty friendly as well.
Brad, I just thought of something. So if it's upheld, and if these lawyers are paid anything as a percentage, anything other than maybe just their hourly fee. So if those two things happen, I would make the argument that every company in Delaware has to move to a different domicile because they could be sued in a future derivative lawsuit for the risk they've taken by staying in Delaware.
Oh my God, you're so right. You are so right. Oh, mic drop on that. They so now on the boards that I sit on, I have to warn them that if they stay in the state of Delaware, then they're knowingly and negligently taking on this incremental risk.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Oh, hey, it's me again. 18 months later, and wow, what an incredible conversation. Hit the nail on the head, by the way. Guess what happened? Almost moments after this was first published online. A mass exodus of corporations getting the fuck out of Delaware, specifically because of this absolutely insane decision. We've heard very recently massive tax hikes, increases in school fees in Delaware. Now, a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist might suggest there possibly could be a connection. The loss of revenue, fees from all the corporations that were previously headquartered on paper in Delaware, having fled. Well, need revenue from somewhere. Let's just squeeze our residents, increased assessment of property values, big increases in school taxes, whatever we got to do. But, of course, I'm not a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, so I don't even know why I mentioned that. It's not like actions have consequences, and it's not like a number of corporations realized, wait a minute, this psycho-fucking-pathic bitch could do something similar to us. We do have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders to get the fuck out of Delaware. And today, a stunning article on the City Journal, headline, a Delaware court wrongly stripped billions from Elon Musk. The state's Court of Chancery relied on an incoherent legal doctrine, by the way, it's true, to overturn the billionaire's compensation package. Now, this is pretty amazing to see published, right, from a think tank. Reason being, this seems to suggest that this think tank actually thinks instead of emotes, as said at the time. This decision is outrageous. It's incoherent, not rational, cannot be justified, entirely ideologically motivated. The very first paragraph, the first sentence in this decision from Kathleen McSeebohm, who, I can't tell you how I really feel about her, was literally, does the world's richest man need... Now, by the way, the brain damage shown in this very first sentence in this decision, palpable. Not only did this moron out herself as ideologically motivated billionaire bad, Elon bad, biggest billionaire, biggest bad, let's rob the guy, but also demonstrated severe retardation given the fact that this compensation package all the way back in 2018, when first approved overwhelmingly by Tesla shareholders, was awarded to a man who was not at the time even close to the world's richest man, and in fact only became the world's richest man as a result of delivering absolutely enormous value to Tesla shareholders after the achievement of the successive tranches of this compensation package, which were included each step of the way. 2 key milestones, one of which was market capitalization, e.g. Tesla shareholders needed to see a massive value increase in their investment in order for Elon to get anything, as well as growth metrics. That opening sentence in the decision told you everything you needed to know. 1, she's retarded. 2, billionaire bad. Elon biggest billionaire, therefore Elon biggest bad. Let's rob the guy. And 3, how stupid this person can possibly be for the opening rationale, the question posed in the decision, to be absolutely nonsensical. I'm amazed to see anybody going against the Elon bad narrative and correctly and rightly calling out this absolutely incoherent decision. By the way, you guys may have heard the quote, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Elon's biggest crime was delivering enormous value to Tesla shareholders. I haven't read this article yet. I saw the headline and thought, okay, we've got to do this. Let's read. In 2018, when the company's market capitalization was about $45 billion, yeah, that's right, not missing a zero, Tesla shareholders, by the way, myself included, approved a new compensation package for Elon Musk. By any measure, the package was extraordinary. That's what she said. It came, oh God, I got to really refrain from making these jokes. It came in 12 tranches, each equal to 1% of the company's outstanding common stock. To receive his payments, Musk had to boost Tesla's market cap by $50 billion for each installment, more than the market capitalization of General Motors at the time. Thus, to earn all 12 tranches, Musk, who already owned about 22% of the company's shares, needed to grow Tesla's value from $45 billion to $645 billion. If he did that, he would receive stock in the company worth about $56 billion. By the way, just keeping in mind that that $56 billion is the end valuation of the options that were awarded back at that $45 billion mark. In other words, on paper, these options only valued at a couple of $1 billion. Only a couple of billion. The largest potential compensation package in American history, but less than 10% of the potential $600 billion gain to shareholders. The market was shocked. Almost no one other than Musk thought the goals were realistically attainable. But holders of 76% of the Tesla shares approved the package. And again, myself included, I voted on this via the proxy, and I absolutely was overwhelmingly in favor of this. It's eat what you kill. Deliver me massive, massive value and receive a tiny fraction of that value increase via some stock options. Sign me the fuck up. To almost everyone's surprise, other than Musk, he delivered. The company's value increased more than $600 billion, and the richest man in the world, a result only of having executed on these massive targets. Collected $56 billion of Tesla stock. Today, by the way, just to be clear, in case anyone needs this to be explained, it's not $56 billion in cash. It's not even a few $billion in cash. There's no cash exchanging hands here. These are stock options, the net result of which is a slight amount of dilution to Tesla shareholders. They didn't deliver Elon Musk massive pallets of cash. It's important to understand this. There's a lot of people, especially Reddit mod types, the forever alone adult virgin types, who have no idea. They see 56 billion and think that Tesla literally had a big pile of cash, a towering mountain of $56 billion of $100 bills, and delivered that to Elon Musk. This was stock-based compensation via stock options, which gives Elon Musk the right to purchase shares of Tesla stock at a predetermined price. Back to the article. Today, the company is worth more than $1 trillion. But in 2024, a pile of human excrement, masquerading as a judge, I may have misread this article slightly, but we'll keep rolling, found that the compensation package was unfair to Tesla and its shareholders. Yeah, let me just take a moment here. Okay. How unfair for Elon Musk to receive zero compensation unless he massively increased Tesla's valuation. In fact, every tranche along the way, 100% increase in the company's valuation. So unfair that Elon Musk drove Tesla's market capitalization from around 45 billion to over 600 now, by the way, today, over $1 trillion. So unfair for him to deliver massive value to the very shareholders who approved this compensation package. So unfair. Entirely results-based. This is so unfair. Goodness me. It would have been much better if he just got paid regardless of results, right? That's fair. And this see you next Tuesday forced Musk to return the stock. Tesla then sent a copy of the court's opinion to every shareholder, called another meeting, and asked the shareholders to ratify the package. That is, approve it again, retrospectively. This time, 77% of shares voting approved. By the way, this was kind of crazy because at the time, back in 2018, I approved this original compensation package. There are many shareholders who voted again in 2024 to ratify, shouldn't have needed to happen in the first place, who weren't shareholders back then. A lot of communist types as well. Elon bad, he doesn't deserve, fuck that, Elon bad, billionaire bad, orange man bad, vote Kamala. Yet still, despite that, the vast majority approve again. Back to the article. Further signaling their displeasure with Kathleen McSeebom, shareholders approved reincorporating the company in Texas. The Court of Chancery then determined, in true Karen fashion, that the ratification vote was ineffective. Excuse me? Bitch. This was so insulting as a Tesla shareholder. I approved this in 2018. Then, I have to reapprove this, retrospectively. I do it again, and this bitch goes, nah, your will doesn't matter. What you want doesn't matter. Your vote doesn't matter. I know best. No money for you. If you've heard about companies considering leaving Delaware for Texas or Nevada, this case is the reason why. The Court of Chancery made a serious mistake that affected more than just Tesla and Elon Musk. With most public companies incorporated in Delaware, the Delaware courts, globally renowned for their objectivity, not anymore, and commercial sophistication, supply corporate law to the nation. They were an important national asset. To maintain their integrity, too late for that, the state Supreme Court should overrule the Court of Chancery's decision. And no doubt, by the way, they will. To understand what went wrong in the Musk case, consider some of the relevant background. Gets a little bit nerdy here. Bear with me. The basic theory of corporate law is that directors, acting within the law, have a fiduciary duty to manage a corporation for the benefit of its shareholders. Like, for example, hey, Elon, you have a duty, a responsibility to massively increase the value of Tesla over time to benefit your shareholders. And if you do that, we'll give you a little bit of a cut. Sounds good? Done? Okay, massive increase in valuation. Apparently, according to Kathleen McSeebom, this was unacceptable. Because managing a business is extremely complex and business decisions are inherently risky, when a shareholder challenges a business decision made by directors, courts apply the so-called business judgment rule. Under that rule, courts will not interfere or second-guess a decision unless it has, quote, no rational business purpose. That is, it is so irrational that no person of ordinary sound business judgment could think that the exchange was fair to the corporation. This is a very high standard, and it applies only in extreme cases. To my knowledge, no public company directors have ever been found to have violated it. Courts apply a different standard, however, if directors have a conflict of interest. For example, if the directors are selling to the company a parcel of real estate that they themselves own. In these cases, the court will review the transaction to make sure it is entirely fair to the corporation and its shareholders. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit just to get to the crux of this article. Sometimes, to find an unconflicted decision maker, the corporation, e.g. in this case it would be Tesla, must push the transaction to shareholders, e.g. shareholders voting on Elon Musk's 2018 compensation package. This is the usual procedure by which corporations decide directors' compensation. given the obvious conflicts involved, e.g., you probably don't want Elon or his bro being the only people voting on how much Elon gets compensated. So this is how you avoid an issue like Kathleen McSeebomb spitting in the face of shareholders. You literally ask these shareholders themselves, bro, are you cool with this? Massive value increase, Elon gets a little bit of a cut, sound good? Oh, it is? You overwhelmingly approve? Great, perfect. Directors propose their own compensation package to the shareholders who then vote on it. If shareholders approve, the courts will review the package under the business judgment standard and it will stand. Enter Kathleen McSeebomb. Skipping ahead a little bit further again, the Court of Chancery, without any support from the Delaware Supreme Court, has gone further, creating the so-called transaction-specific controller doctrine. Skipping ahead once again to the punchline, this new doctrine is incoherent. Skipping ahead even further again, if you guys, there'll be a link in the description of the full article. Don't want to put too many of you to sleep. The court did not quite say it, but its clear implication is that a fair price for Tesla's deal with Musk should have been zero. I remind you again. Does the world's richest man really deserve? According to Kathleen McSeebomb, no. Elon Musk should be doing what he does at Tesla for free. Final paragraph. If he prevails on appeal, and no doubt he will, Musk intends to use his $56 billion from Tesla to fund his plans at SpaceX to colonize Mars. I don't care about Mars, but I do care about Delaware. Musk deserves his $56 billion, and if the Delaware Supreme Court agrees, it will restore the integrity of the state's long-hallowed courts. Isn't it great to see somebody with some common sense pointing out the utter insanity of this extremely corrupt decision? And as I said earlier, when this gets overturned by the Delaware Supreme Court, this paves the way for a new compensation plan for Elon Musk, right as the AI era dawns. Perfect fucking setup. Just remember, if a leader produces extraordinary results, extraordinary increases in valuation, it is fair and reasonable for them to be compensated. And the only people on planet Earth you'll find who disagree with this statement are people who themselves do not believe they can or do add any value in any way, in any form, in any area of their lives, and rather than experience the slight discomfort of looking inward, trying to understand why they feel that way about themselves, grappling with the fact that they could in fact learn, grow, and add more value and therefore be compensated more based on the value they bring to the marketplace, because that require work, they prefer to take the easy way out, become a full-time Reddit mod and post about how billionaire bad, communism will solve everything, and Elon doesn't deserve his compensation. Never go full Reddit mod. Want more content? Early access? Bunch of perks? Click the links in the pinned comment. AG1 is awesome. I've been taking it daily now for more than 3 years. It's a great way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's packed full of vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus has prebiotics, probiotics, and adaptogens to improve gut health, regularity, and help your body handle stress. I'm always looking for an edge to help me feel and perform my best, which is why I haven't missed a day of AG1 for more than 3 years. Just try it and see how you feel. Click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR and get yourself a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 travel packs.